Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to look at a topic that is um, maybe the single most common yet least talked about. Reality of a creative life. The day job.
And right away, we have to be clear. We're not talking about the short-term hustle you do before your big break.
No, not at all. We're looking at the day job as a long-term condition. For so many of you listening, it's a completely parallel life, right? A
Mm.
demanding, necessary thing that just runs alongside the work that truly defines who you are.
And that reframing is so crucial. The sources really push back on this popular idea that having a day job is some kind of personal failing or maybe a lack of courage. It's a
Wow.
structural necessity. And navigating it takes an immense amount of focus.
That's it. So our mission for this deep dive is to really examine this divided life, this need for endurance, but without apology and definitely without the fantasy of some immediate escape.
And without the toxic idea that suffering or burnout is somehow glamorous.
Exactly. We're looking at how you maintain your essential work and your dignity when reality demands you split your focus.
Right. In short, how do you pursue your vocation without self-contempt? Because what we found again and again is that the self-contempt, not the job itself, is the real poison.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The core myth that we're all sold is that the day job is just a stepping stone.
Right. You just endure it for a while, and then the real work magically takes over and sustains you.
But the source material, I mean, it makes it painfully clear that for the vast majority of people, artists, writers, researchers, that clean break never really happens.
No, years pass, decades even, and the day job is still there. It's not a transition. It's the terrain you live on.
And that's where the real strain comes from, right? This split between survival and vocation.
Mm-hmm.
You're forced to give your best energy, your peak focus, that 9 to 5 clarity to work that, might be perfectly fine, but it doesn't reflect your actual identity.
And the work that does matter to you, your actual vocation, that gets what's left over.
The stolen hours, as the sources call it.
Yes. The late nights, the weekends, the brutal early mornings before the other job kicks in, you're always working with the leftovers of your own energy.
Just describing that is exhausting. When you're constantly giving your best to someone else's mission, what does that do to you over time?
Well, that reversal, it has these deep, slow consequences. It's not just that it erodes your energy, it's that it starts to chip away at your clarity, at your confidence,
I'll see.
because you're engaging in this intense emotional labor.
Okay, let's define that. What's the emotional labor here specifically?
It's the constant switching. It's the effort of being, as one source put it, functional by day and truthful by night. You spend 8 hours speaking a certain language, corporate speak, logistics, whatever it is, and then you have to immediately shift into the vulnerable personal headspace your real work demands.
Wow, so you're basically maintaining two different selves, and the one that pays the bills gets the best, the freshest battery charge.
Yeah, precisely. But here's the core insight we have to hold on to. The difficulty of those conditions, it doesn't diminish the value of the work you create.
Say that again, that feels really important.
Survival work does not diminish the value of creative work. It just makes the act of creating it that much harder.
Okay, so if that's the physical reality, let's talk about the emotional landscape, because this arrangement creates a lot of resentment and shame, and they tend to fester in silence.
Yeah, let's start with the resentment. And it's key to understand what it's aimed at.
It's not really about the job itself, is it?
Usually not. The resentment is toward the mismatch. It's this deep frustration that your most alive hours, when your mind is sharpest, are being spent on something that doesn't feed your soul.
It's like the real you is just waiting off stage, while a very competent understudy performs for 8 hours a day.
That's a perfect way to put it. And that feeling feeds directly into the second emotion, which is shame.
The shame of not having made it yet.
Exactly. The shame you feel at a party when someone asks, what do you do? And you have to explain the survival job before you can even get to your actual work.
That little moment reinforces this feeling that you don't really belong in either world.
And it internalizes this toxic idea that if you were really serious or really talented, you wouldn't need the money.
Which brings us directly to what the sources call the purity myth.
Yes, we have to challenge this head on, this idea that needing financial stability is somehow a failure of artistic commitment. It is just so pervasive and so damaging.
Let's be absolutely clear for anyone listening. Needing an income is not a failure. Paying your rent is not a betrayal of your practice. It is survival.
And historically, it's just not accurate. I mean, think about the great works of the past. So many were made by people with jobs. They were clerks, teachers, editors.
Because the structural support for a full-time creative life just wasn't there for most people. It still isn't.
Exactly. This romantic myth of the starving artist, that poverty equals integrity, is not only dangerous, it's just wrong.
So if we accept the day job is a neutral reality, where's the real danger? It can't just be about losing time.
The real danger, according to the analysis, is when you allow the day job to quietly colonize your inner life.
Colonize your inner life. What does that look like?
It happens when exhaustion becomes your normal, when you start seeing your creative time as an indulgence, something you'll get to if you have energy left.
So the creative work becomes optional.
It gets pushed down the priority list because the logistics of survival always feel more urgent. The mental space you need for that messy, difficult creative work just shrinks.
So the real fight is internal. It's about defending that space.
Precisely. And that brings us to the practical side of this. The solution isn't to escape, it's to defend.
And I love how the sources frame this. They say that defending your creative time isn't an indulgence, it's an ethical act.
It's an ethical act because if you believe your work matters, then protecting the conditions for its creation is your core responsibility.
So what are some of the strategies we see people using to do that?
A lot of it comes down to very deliberate boundary setting, saying no to things.
Like social events or other commitments.
That's right. Lowering your expectations in other areas of your life to conserve that core energy. And, crucially, accepting slower progress.
That feels key. You have to accept that progress might be incremental without giving up on the whole project.
Yes, that's the heart of endurance. You choose steady movement over some dramatic, unsustainable leap. And this all connects to the broader systemic reasons why this is necessary in the first place.
This is a great place to bring in the insights from The Artist, that podcast series by D.O.O. Rose.
Yeah, that series is incredible because it documents the reality of this in real time. It's not looking back from success. It's in the thick of it, applying for grants, getting rejections.
And it really highlights the structural conditions that make the day job almost inevitable for so many.
It does. A major theme is how precarity is just normalized in the cultural sector.
What do you mean by precarity?
It just means you can't rely on consistent income or support, so you're always being pushed back toward the safety of a steady paycheck. The series also gets into the economics of it, this huge dependency on subsidies.
And the administrative nightmare of trying to get one of those subsidies.
Yeah.
You have to translate your entire artistic vision into this institutional language.
It's a huge creative drain. You're spending all this time performing administrative competence instead of actually making the work.
And then even after all that, there's the rejection.
And the series makes it clear that rejection isn't personal, it's a structural condition. There's just not enough funding to go around, so the system is built to say no most of the time.
So a sustained career isn't about finding some stable platform. It's about relentless persistence and recalibration.
Exactly. It's a continuous effort, both externally to navigate the system and internally to protect your work from it.
Which brings us all the way back to where we started. That personal endurance mirrors the structural reality.
It really does. It's a complex, demanding reality that's a world away from the simple myths we're told about creative success.
So let's try to summarize this for you, the listener. The main argument from all this is pretty clear. This whole dilemma is about endurance, not purity.
Right. And your work doesn't lose its meaning or its power just because it was made after hours or under strain.
In fact, there's an argument that it often gains its weight from that the constraints force a kind of clarity.
They absolutely can, and that's the final orientation we really want to leave you with. Independence is rarely a dramatic leap. It's built incrementally, brick by brick, through patience and persistence.
And here's the final critical thought.
Remember that what truly weakens your creative practice isn't having a job. It is contempt for your own reality.
You have permission to continue, to fight for that time, and to make your work without that self-contempt. Your current situation is a starting point, not a verdict.
Embrace the messiness of it. And continue with dignity.
That is a powerful idea to end on. Thank you for diving into this with us. If this resonated, we really encourage you to seek out documents like the Artist series that foreground the process, not just the outcome. Keep working, and we'll see you for the next deep dive.